Hi! Thanks for stopping by. I'm Adam, your dizzy dude. I have a favor to ask. Please consider supporting the show. You can do that in two ways. You can become a monthly sponsor for as little as $1 a month over at patreon.com/AdamTilted. Or you can give a one-time donation at paypal.me/AdamTilted. I depend on your donations to continue to bring great content, and I have a lot of plans in mind, but they require some money, so I need some support. Those links are in the description, and let's get started with the show. Hello. Oh, I lost myself. Hold on. Technical glitches. This is what happens when you are producer, host. All right, Chelsea.
Yes.
Okay, great. I got your sound.
Yay.
Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Chelsea Peitz. I am an author and speaker, and generally I teach people how to use social media and digital marketing and camera-first branding to build a powerful personal brand.
Excellent. We've got Joanne and Amber. Say good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for stopping by. So I asked you on here because I do a segment called Dealing with Different, where I talk about, I mainly talk about disabilities, but pretty much any overlooked group. And, of course, I live with disabilities, and so that's kind of my passion, is to help bring awareness to some of these issues. And you agreed to come on and talk about eating disorders, which is amazing because I don't have any direct experience with that, but I know that it's a huge issue. And it's another one of those invisible disabilities where there's a stigma attached and people are afraid to ask for help. So I'm hoping that through our discussion today, somebody somewhere will be empowered enough to get help that they need. So
yeah, excited for that. And if I can, like I told you when we talked about this, that if I can help one person, then it would be, that would be worth it for me. So I'm excited to reach out and share the story and see if we can inspire and help some people out there.
Excellent. So let's just start off by talking about your own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just run us through kind of a brief timeline of like what happened? And
absolutely. I think that talking about things that aren't easily seen on the outside, right, are so critical, especially in light of what has happened this week with Miss Kate Spade, who was tragic to me to, and that's the challenge a lot too with this particular, disease of an eating disorder, is that you can look perfect on the outside. You can put it together, you can look amazing. And let's face it, in our culture, thin is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something, oh my gosh, you look great. You've lost weight. Oh, wonderful. So until you get over that edge sometimes, it's a really double-edged sword, and people think that you have everything all together, that your life is wonderful, that you're beautiful and you're thin and you have this and you have that, and you really don't know what people are struggling with. Mm-hmm. And, mine started, as a young child. I remember as early as 6 years old, I have always had OCD. And at the time, I lived with it for many years without ever being actually diagnosed until I was an adult. So, I think in that era, our parents sort of had a different idea about what could be potentially a mental illness or something. You're creative, you're a daydreamer, you're a worrier. It wasn't ever something that was, you may have an actual problem.
Right.
So for me, I believe that the eating disorder manifested as a direct result of my struggle with OCD, because I found something that I was able to sort of control
Yeah.
that uncomfortable feeling, that trigger. But unfortunately, the eating disorder became a vicious cycle. You had to do more. You had to trigger those activities more and more and more and more and more to try to break yourself out of whatever you were trying to ignore. And so that it became a very vicious cycle. I was full blown eating disorder for about a decade, and went through a variety of levels. And I hope that this will help people, because we may have a box of what we think an eating disorder is. It's somebody who starves themselves, or somebody who maybe is, bulimic or does these things. It can be a spectrum. It can be people who overwork out for 2, 3, 4 hours a day. I did that. It can be people that take diuretics, people that take laxatives.
Or eat and eat. Priscilla brought up the point that sometimes you're not thin when you have an eating disorder.
Or even if you are thinking all the time about calorie counting and oh gosh, look at me. All of those are spectrums, and I had them all. I would say I was mostly anorexic for the largest part of my eating disorder. And there were times when I went into somewhat of a bulimic, where I would binge food, abuse laxatives, and all of those things. So I tried it all, right? I did diet.
So I want to clarify, anorexia is when you don't eat.
When you restrict food.
Right.
And I think at my lowest weight, I was I was in double digits. I was probably 89 pounds at my lowest weight. And as a woman, that has really affected my health now. I have had all sorts of cycle problems, all sorts of hormonal problems. It took me many, many years to get pregnant. And I have to imagine that had something to do with, stripping my body of so many critical things and nourishment that it needed for so many years.
Yeah. A few other comments. And could you scooch just a little over to your right?
Here?
Perfect. There you go. Yeah. All right. You're a little off the screen. No, you're too much. Don't go too much. All right. Amber says, thank you for sharing your story. Her daughter is struggling with similar things. Mm-hmm. And she is now up. So good. That's good, Amber. So what I really want to get, this is a really hard problem to solve when we talk about topics like this, is how do we talk about it in a way that is not disrespectful or invading someone's privacy, or if I have a friend and I wonder, does he have some sort of problem? What do I do?
Oh, it's so challenging because, and again, disclaimer, I am not an expert. I don't have any background in this. I'm just giving you my
based on your experience, yeah.
But I will tell you, I was very how dare anybody ever try to say something? And I feel that my particular challenge very mirrored a lot of people who've had drug abuse, because I remember the feeling of almost like a fix. Like I would sweat, I would get my food ready, I would plan out all the binge that I was going to have, and I almost would black out. It was like a weird blackout phase as I was going through this thing. And I would always think about the next time and be fixated on it. But I didn't want people to talk about it. And I didn't want people to ask me about it. And I would deny it. And certainly I didn't get well until I was ready to. And that was hard. Because again, you can try to help people, force them to do things, and until they're ready, you're not going to, so it's hard because I think sometimes too, we want to just come right out and say something. And sometimes we want to be humorous about it. Like, gosh, you look like you've lost so much weight. What do you have, an eating disorder or something like that?
Yeah.
That way, especially for family or friends. And, sometimes approaching it in a different way, with different wording, and maybe even sharing your own story if you feel like you've gone through that. I don't know if that would have created a difference, but I think if I were to approach someone today about it, I would likely probably share a little bit of my story and ask them how they were. I don't think I'd go right into it and say,
Right.
gosh, that's a lot of weight. Is there something going on I should?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah. Okay, great. Some more comments. Scooch a little bit more to your left. There you go. Right, you're right there. Right there is perfect. Okay, so Priscilla brings up the point that being outed can also be a trigger. So yes, I definitely get that. Amber is intrigued by the point you made about controlling food because her daughter has a medical condition. I've heard this before. If people have things that are not in their control, this is one thing that they can control.
Absolutely.
Right. And Jennifer Sloan is giving us some props for sharing. Thanks for commenting, Jennifer. By the way, if you guys think that this is as important as I do, please share this video. I would really love as many people to see this as possible because I guarantee you have at least one person on your friends list who is struggling with an eating disorder. I guarantee you. So, if this even has a chance of helping, all you got to do is share, and that would be great.
I want to mention too, one of the hardest parts for me was that we look at these other areas. Let's just take drug or alcohol abuse. You could potentially go. I mean, you certainly can go on living without ever drinking again, without ever taking a drug again. The hard part around food is, number one, our culture celebrates with it. We connect over it. And we can't not eat.
Yeah, that's true.
So all day long, you're thinking about this thing that everybody around you does, that everybody else doesn't seem to have a problem with, that's normal, that's healthy. And so for me, that was the hardest part because you can't not eat. You have to do it.
I hadn't thought of that. So it's a constant struggle. And so you're still dealing with that to this day, I'm guessing.
I'm just really blessed that I have absolutely overcome 100% and all of the things that I went through. Not to say that those ideas, those voices don't creep in like, ooh, sure. Kind of, gosh, man, I haven't been hitting the gym like I used to. Maybe I should, sort of those self-deprecating kinds of things. Yeah. And I was very nervous in my 20s about ever getting pregnant because I thought, oh my gosh, what if I, and it's such an irrational fear. Like, what if I gain so much weight and I can never lose again? It's really about an irrational fear. And you know that. We know that it's illogical. And as somebody who suffers still to this day with OCD, I understand that my brain works differently than other people. And that took me a long time to accept because when I had OCD as a young person, I was afraid that people would think I was crazy. And I didn't want to tell people that sometimes I feel like if I don't touch the door a certain number of times, someone could die. I mean, people look at you and they're probably like, really?
Okay, yeah. I know. I experienced a similar thing with the depression and anxiety disorders. Mm-hmm. Because that's not something that people know. But it's also something that those terms get tossed around very casually. Mm-hmm. I'm depressed when they mean they're sad. Mm-hmm. And so then that gets confusing.
Right.
So yeah, I think the words that we choose make a big difference.
Yeah, and I can't fault people who haven't gone through it. I mean, I say words still. I mean, OCD or obsessed and things that I catch myself. And as somebody who actually, has been deeply affected by that. Yeah, I mean, and I don't blame people. It's just that they've never gone through it.
Right. It's just an education. We just need to educate our society that. Okay, just think about what you just said. That's kind of a jerk move. So, don't be a jerk.
Yeah, and just tell them, here's why. As somebody who's gone. You're afraid. It's very shame-filled. All of these things, it's unfortunate that we've had this, idea that we should feel shame when we, have done something different, or if we should be shamed if we have OCD or an eating disorder.
Any mental illness. For some reason, I mean, like, it's the same as if I broke my leg. I
Absolutely.
need to go get treated by
Mhm.
a professional.
Right.
My mental state and emotional state, they're the same thing. It's all part of the same system. So, we can't just say, yeah, I know. I hope that's changing. I hope I see a lot more people starting to talk about mental health, which is encouraging. Unfortunately, it's been prompted by these tragic suicides.
Yes. Yeah.
But, if we can build awareness and have something good come out of this, and I think that's a good thing. But I just think it's important people know that they're not alone.
Absolutely. I agree with
You're not alone.
you. Mhm.
So, what would you suggest, Chelsea, if someone is thinking, okay, I might have an eating disorder?
Well, our first reflex is always to go to Google, which sometimes maybe,
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's a roll of the dice. Russian roulette.
yeah, you just never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you could come across a really amazing, helpful website that is designed, right for what you're looking for. But sometimes, I mean, my gosh, I think I've diagnosed myself with something on WebMD like every
Yeah,
other week that I
right.
didn't actually have. But really, I think it's about talking to someone, and even if you find out that like maybe that's not really what you have, or maybe you're just going through a rough time, being able to talk to somebody who can help reframe things in such a simple way that you say, I never thought about that. So my therapist, I mean, I had a wonderful therapist. She said something so simple and yet so profound. I still repeat it to myself today, but just going there and hearing it is what I needed. And she told me, what's the worst thing that could happen if this took place? Like, fill in the blank, your fear of blah, blah, blah. What's the worst thing that could happen if you gained 5 pounds or something like that?
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
like,
an
I never
interesting.
thought about it that way. And like really, really facing it out. Like, let's say the worst thing is you could drive off the road and get into a car accident. Okay, we'd need to get a new car. We'd probably have to go to the hospital, and sort of like running through these actual
But in
ideas.
the end, we'll be okay somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that really helped me. But again, I did get professional help because we sometimes don't have the tools to get where we need to do. And really, it's a mindset shift. All of
Yeah.
these things, whether it's depression or anxiety, it's about, okay, like I said, my brain works differently. My chemicals may be different than other people. And here's the decisions I'm going to make because I now have a mindset around my particular brain.
Exactly. Yeah, and an uninterested third party really helps with that. Danik
Mhm.
and I were talking about that yesterday on What's Up Wednesday, and it's important to, if you can, get a therapist. I think everyone should be given a therapist as part of the standard healthcare, at least every other week, or once a month at minimum, just someone to check in. How you doing? You okay?
Talk with someone and like
Yes.
ask you questions and give you ideas, and I that's why I love our community on social, because I feel like there is something really powerful about community, and seeing yourself and other people and seeing their challenges, and you're like, oh, I'm not alone, I'm not the only person.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, great. Oh, and by the way, Chelsea and I met on Snapchat.
Yes.
She's my Snapchat hero in a lot of ways. She even wrote a book about Snapchat, talking
Yeah.
in pictures. I have a copy on my iPad, and I was going to show the cover, but my iPad battery died. I'm sorry.
Totally okay.
It's really good. The book is really good. I encourage you to read it. Okay, so I want to go back. We've had a bunch of comments here, so I want to go back and take a look. All right. Priscilla, when you understand that dieting or the urge to control food or to count calories is a symptom, not the cure, life changes. Exactly. Brandy, there's a difference between being sad and depressed. Yes. Amber has a question. What would you suggest for parents and loved ones of someone who is struggling? So I'm guessing this is a little different from the question that I asked. This is someone that they know, you know, they're having trouble. How can you?
Right. You know, I ask myself that same question, Amber, because I am a parent. And I say to myself, I know what I went through as a child and how my parents chose to handle it, which I don't think I would choose to handle it the way they did. It's okay. We're all humans. You learn that as you become an adult, that your parents are really human, right? And they don't know the answers.
Yeah, they were doing the best they could.
Yeah, so I think what I would do without knowing, because I haven't gone through it myself as a parent yet, but I'm just thinking what I would do is, one, I would take care of myself, because one thing I have learned going through, you know, postpartum and that sort of thing is that I needed to fix me before I could take care of my child. And that was number one, because you can't take care of someone else if you're not able to be okay with you.
So true.
So always take care of yourself, because you also may not be able to help that person right away. You know, they kind of have to get to their own thing, and maybe you may never be able to help someone. So that's why you need somebody to help you first. And then, you know, I would talk openly. I would hope with my child and say, you know, I'd love to have you talk to someone. It doesn't have to be me. I think we should both talk to someone separately so that we can work on this together. So it's really about dialoguing, talking about it. I think getting the ugly thing out of the closet that you're afraid of and sitting right next to it, which is really hard,
but
is
so good
to get towards it. I don't like feeling that way, but I kind of sit with it and be like, okay, I survived 10 minutes. I can survive 10 more. I survived an hour today. I survived 24 hours. So it's breaking it down to the minute sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Jennifer says that she loves that what is the worst that can happen idea, and says that applies to all fears, which I agree. I'm gonna use that as a mental trick. And she also loves our social community. Yes. And let's see, we've got a bunch here. It's not easy. It's easier to connect to someone not so connected to you. Yeah, we got a lot of agreement in the comments, which yeah, and you know, the hard part, which I found through my own experience, is knowing this in your brain is a lot different than feeling it in your whatever that part is that creates this weirdness.
Emotional versus logical. And you know, the thing too is that when we talk about parents and kids, at least for me, I was ashamed that my parents wouldn't think of me the same way, or they wouldn't talk to me the same way, which obviously as a parent, I realize is not true. But in my mind, I didn't want to talk to my parents because I was afraid that they wouldn't love me, or they would think that there was something wrong with me. So that's why it's so important to like get that, like you said, sort of that disinterested third party, because there's something about like, you're like, well, this person's not going to think I'm crazy, or I'm not ashamed to tell them. They're supposed to hear people that are like me coming in. So that is the hard part about, your family, whether it's your spouse or your parent. You might think, gosh, what if they think I'm not who they thought they were, and they're disappointed, or they're worried, or they think I'm weird, or so it's all these strange things that illogically go through our minds because it's the emotional trigger.
Yeah. Okay. We've got some great comments. You're gonna have to go back and read some of these. Yeah. Okay. I want to real quick just remind you, consider sponsoring the show. I really do have some great ideas, but I need some cash, and I don't have it on my own. So, PayPal.me/Adam Tilted. Make sure you put Mark Dizzy Dude so I know that you're contributing to the show. And Patreon.com/Adam Tilted. The links are in the description. Chelsea, final thoughts.
Oh, final thoughts. I think as we go through these next few years, we're likely to see a lot more discussion and dialogue about all sorts of hidden diseases, illnesses, challenges, and I'm really happy about that. I'm not happy about the way we've lately been talking about it, like you said, amazing people that are so talented and young, that have unfortunately made decisions that they can't ever reverse. People are not alone, and it doesn't matter what somebody looks like on the outside. If they have a great family, a beautiful home, they look a certain way. Every single person can have something going on behind the scenes, and just because you do doesn't mean that you should feel shame, that there's something wrong with you. I think probably everybody's fighting their own battle of some sort that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
So hang in there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's been fun. Everybody give Chelsea a round of applause. Great. All right. Please feel free to drop questions in the comments. We'll come back and do our best to answer them. If you have ideas for topics for future shows, you can feel free to put them in there too. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Adam. This is Chelsea. And until I see you again, be nice to each other.